Okay, well, we will welcome everyone and thank you so much for coming, for your interest. And we're going to begin with just a short practice. So come to a comfortable position. If you're seated on a chair or cushion, just bring quality of alertness, attentiveness. You can begin by just noticing how you're feeling at this moment, having a little bit of a check in with yourself. You can have your eyes closed if you're comfortable, or open with a soft gaze angled downward a few feet in front of you on the ground. And just sense the contact of your body with your chair or floor. And as you begin to direct your attention inside, if there is the possibility of softening, you might invite in a little softening. Allowing your belly to be soft, your neck and shoulders to decompress, allowing the jaw to release. And feeling a softening in your forehead. And shifting your attention to the sensation of your breath at this moment. Just feeling the breath as it comes in and as it leaves. This breath and then the next. And as you are aware of your breathing, see if you can bring a quality of warmth to your attentiveness. This is something very precious, something very interesting that you're attending to. Anytime you might notice that you're somewhere else, can you choose to come back to this feeling of the breath with some sense, perhaps even of enthusiasm, that you found it again? And then beginning to widen your attention from the breath to take in the space around you, the sense of yourself in your space in this moment, at this time. And the sense of being present here with all of us who've gathered this afternoon. So welcome again, or welcome back. I'd like to turn the mic over to my dear colleague and friend, Kimberly Brown, just to introduce herself, and then I'll introduce myself, and we will open it up for questions, which is how we will spend the majority of the time here, to be able to field any questions you have about the program. So, Kimberly.
Thanks, Mona. Thanks, everyone, for being here today. I think many of you I know, and some of you I've communicated via email, so it's nice to see you here. And those of you that are strangers, welcome. My name is Kimberly Brown, and I'm a meditation teacher here in New York City. I also am the executive director of the Interdependence Project. Now, you may know of our organization. For many years, we had a center in downtown Manhattan where we were a meditation center. We offered classes, and then in 2001, we started a training program. Okay. Over the years, things changed so much in mindfulness and meditation. New York having being what it is for real estate. A few years ago, we decided to focus on what we do best, which is our training programs. We have this mindfulness teacher training. It's become a 200-hour accredited program with the International Mindfulness Teachers Association. And we also have a program that begins every September for 6 months, which is teaching mindfulness to children. That's a program for child professionals and parents, and it's taught by people who are in that field. So this particular program, as I said, it started in 2011. At the time, only 11 years ago, there were almost no mindfulness teacher trainings. You could become an MBSR teacher, or you could become a Buddhist teacher, in a particular lineage. And of course, a yoga teacher in a lineage. But and at the time, when it was founded by the founder of the Interdependence Project, who is no longer with our organization. But when he founded it, there was actually some criticism that we would do such a thing. So it's been amazing to be in this field and watch how things are transformed. There are so many mindfulness teacher training programs right now. Many are quite wonderful. Many I'm not quite sure about. And there are so many more people who are interested in mindfulness. And we've seen in just a short amount of time how this somewhat alternative type of skills training has become quite mainstream, and it's now used in medical settings, clinically, it's used in education, it's used all over in many, many institutions for many reasons. And so our program also has evolved with that. Although the Interdependence Project we teach in a secular way, and this is a program in which mindfulness is presented in accordance with the modern mindfulness philosophy through, like I said, the IMTA, through MBSR, through Jon Kabat-Zinn, through other practitioners in the United States that offer mindfulness. We also know that the way modern mindfulness is offered and its orientation is directly from the Buddhist lineage. So the IDP program will offer texts and information about where these methods and trainings it came from, their history and background. So you'll be reading from Buddhist texts and Buddhist teachers as well as contemporary teachers. A bit about me, I actually was a graduate of the first program in 2011 and have been teaching, I guess, since 2010. I mainly study with in the Insight tradition, and also I'm a Tibetan student. I have many teachers, but my main teachers are Sharon Salzberg, with whom I usually retreat at Insight Meditation Society every year, and also Venerable Robina Curtin, who's been, real support and encouragement. She's a nun in the Tibetan tradition. As I say that, though, we aren't here to make anybody a Buddhist. So if your practice is solely from a mindfulness, clinical and or MBSR orientation, that's great. You'll also make a great teacher. So I'm going to let Mona introduce herself, but first I'm just going to let you know that we'll open it up. When we do, you can either raise your hand, and we'll see you. You can use that little reactions button and raise your hand, and a little icon will come up. And you can also post your question in the chat. We'll answer all three.
Thanks, Kim. Well, I'm Mona Chopra, and I think I'm not familiar with many of you. I'm happy to see your faces and names. I am one of the teachers at the Interdependence Project and in this teacher training program. I'm a long-term student of Buddhism, and one of my entry points to Buddhism and the practice of meditation really was my own suffering, physical suffering. I was sent by a doctor to an 8-week training program to work with healing and mindfulness when I was about 20 some odd years ago, and then over the course of life, as life presents itself, it's been the teachings and practices that I've returned to again and again to work with what's happening in my experience. I'm also a long-term yoga teacher and an acupuncturist here in New York City. And yeah, I'm delighted to be part of the Interdependence Project and these training programs and sharing these incredibly powerful practices with others and with others to share with others, because wow, do we need them? We need a lot of things, but this we need. So yeah. So as Kim said, we can open it up now. If you have any questions about the training, we are here. Alex?
Also, sorry, just before we begin, this is recorded, so people will be able to view it later, and if you have to leave early or something, we'll post it tomorrow. And Madeline, go ahead, unmute yourself and ask your question.
Yeah, thanks. I think Kim and I already chatted a bit over email, but I know there's only, it's maxed out at 25 participants, correct?
Madeline, we're not sure. It's going to be 25 to 30. If we have a lot of interest, we will probably go to 30. This is our first year in which we're not location based, right? We
Okay.
usually offer it here in New York. Now it's open up, so we're not sure. We'll probably go to 30. And
Oh, and yeah, so if you get more applicants than 30, and I'm not sure if you've had this issue before, is there a way to determine, who you accept into the program?
we usually go on a rolling basis. So
Okay.
if you are qualified and you fulfilled all the requirements, if you register early and you're accepted, you're accepted. We don't kind of wait and try to pick and choose who's better. It's more or less, if you meet the qualifications, we'll let you in. So if you are pretty sure that you would like to take this program, go ahead and apply. There's no cost to do it, and apply as soon as possible. Be reminded you'll need to send us 2 letters of recommendation, so that might take you some time. But it will, in general, if you're sure you want to do it, don't wait till the deadline to begin. Did that answer your question, Madeline? Do you have others?
Yeah, I think I will probably as we go along and I hear other people's, but that was my first question that you answered. Thank you.
Thanks, you're welcome. So the next person I saw had their hand raised is Hope.
Hey, thank you. Can you hear me okay? Can you
Not
hear
so
me okay?
well.
Not
Not so
so
well.
Okay. Let's see. Why don't I pass for now and I'll try and get a different headset on.
Thanks, Hope. Alec?
Hi, yes, thank you. I'm wondering, I actually have 2 questions. How do graduates use this training?
Hi, Alec. So how do graduates use this training? Okay, it's interesting because it's kind of the Wild West for mindfulness teachers, right? There are lots of them, lots of different trainings, some no trainings and, are out there teaching. Many of our students already have a place in which they're teaching. They are psychotherapists, they are teachers, they are life coaches, or we've had a lot of trainers, physical trainers do it. Okay, so there are those people that already have a use for it. And then there are others who are choosing to begin a career in this because of an interest, and a passion for it. And also there's a third group. There's a third group who take this and don't ever teach. They're really interested in learning it. They might teach friends and family, but they're interested in spending this time in learning more about mindfulness. So those are the 3 groups. Ellen, do you have a follow-up question?
I do actually. Yeah. A follow-up question, which is, so that kind of gives me the categories of people who are using it. How are they using it within their practices? Like how are the students coming forth in their needs such that they're receiving the teaching? If that makes sense.
I'm sorry, I'm not clear on your question, and perhaps Mona is more clear. Do you want to, Mona, answer?
Actually, I wasn't 100% clear. Do you mean in whatever? Yeah,
exactly. So we now understand kind of like who the teachers are themselves, but how are they using it within these different contexts?
So let me know if this is speaking to it. So some people might be actually doing group classes, offering group classes. Some who work one-on-one with people might actually take on, work with students one-on-one. So teach individually or teach in groups. Some might collaborate with others and do workshops,
If I may, Mona is an acupuncturist, for example. And perhaps, Mona, you can share with us how you might use mindfulness with your acupuncture clients.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so it's both that it's just become a part of the fabric of how I think about my work and approach my actual work with the teachings of mindfulness. So it could be that a patient would not say they have any interest in mindfulness or meditation at all, but it has informed how I work and how I will, what kind of counseling I will offer them in the course of a session is informed by that, very much so. As well, that some, I might suggest, oh, do you have a meditation practice? Are you interested? Have you, where can I learn? Oh, you could teach me. Okay, well, let's do a few sessions and get you kind of started on a practice and offer some books and guidance, things like that. So that would be one way. We do have one teacher who works at, is it Sloan? Where Emily, works at a hospital. And so is offering it to patients in a hospital. I think both group and individual sitting and guiding and instructing. Yeah, does that speak to your question, Alec? Go ahead.
It does, and I do have one final question, which is kind of recognizing, as you did before, about how there are different programs. Many things have developed over the past 10 years. Can you speak a little bit to how this program might be different from some of the other options out there?
I don't know all of the other programs, and there are many wonderful programs out there. I don't think ours is the only or the best, okay, in that way. But ours is, I believe, among the best. We've been around for a long time. We kind of have learned from our, mistakes and learned as we've gone along and been able to, evolve. What's interesting about our program is everyone that is, all the teachers you see on there have been through the program. So they've been in your seat, IDP has always from the beginning had a less of a sense of hierarchy than maybe other meditation centers. And it's important to us that our students who become part of the IDP meditation teacher training also adopt that there is not a sense of guruism or you're special. More of we're going to meet regular humans like ourselves and do our best to support them through difficult times. Another thing about our program is that we do keep it small. It's not like a webinar or a module, where you could come in. It's really important to us that students feel part of a group, and that what we've found is one of the successful ways to learn and train in mindfulness and meditation is to do it with others. So there's a lot of, you will be part of a study group that meets once a week. We'll be here, we'll be interacting, even though it's going to be on Zoom. So that does change it a little bit too. And what else is particular about IDP?
We offer mentorship. So, when you're in the program, you will be assigned a mentor and you will, have access to one of the teachers to check in. There'll be required number of times that you do check in, and you actually will guide practices and get one-on-one feedback. Because of the nature of the size, I would say one benefit of the program is that your teachers are quite accessible. As Kimberly was mentioning, really one of the things that has made the program a very powerful, very moving, transformative experience for those who have, certainly for myself, when I was in the program in 2013. But witnessed it again, even up until the recent graduation we had, is really the connection with others and the sense of community and supportive learning community that gets created. So I would say those are aspects of it. Also, just reiterating what Kim said, there's a real sense of respect, gratitude, acknowledgement, appreciation for the tradition that these teachings came from and are rooted in, and also study. So there's books that we read, and readings and homework, and it is at the same time very reiterating what Kim said. You don't have to become a Buddhist necessarily. It isn't a particular lineage, and I don't think any mindfulness program should be, but there's nothing dogmatic, right, about it. We're contemplating, thinking about these ideas together, and there is just, yes, some fundamental teachings that why do we do this? What is the reason, what is the value of this practice? And that, I think, is important and characteristic of this program, that it is really addressing suffering, ours and others, and that it is really giving us tools to work with the reality of what life is in all its colors and textures, and not trying to push anything away or make a positive out of a negative kind of thing. So yeah.
And finally, this program is accredited by the International Mindfulness Teachers Association. That organization started about, I think, 4 years ago. They're very new. If you look at their board of directors, there are lots of American Buddhist teachers on the board, because many people in this field are concerned about how do we somehow certify and ensure that your teacher has been properly trained. I'm not even sure if it's, this is so new. Again, it's a new field. But if you go through our program and you do complete the requirements, you can, if you choose, apply to be certified, be a certified teacher from the International Mindfulness Teachers Association. So far, it's unclear what it means and if it even matters. I am certified. I do think it helps. I do lots of private clients and businesses, and I do think that it reassures them that I have some sort of credential. Now, there also is just now beginning that insurance is going to be taking or paying for mindfulness sessions, just beginning. How are they going to distinguish who can get that payment? My guess is you're going to have some sort of certification, perhaps MBSR, perhaps IMTA. I'm not sure, but that may be valuable too. It also, because we are part of the IMTA, we have to follow certain standards. It's 200 hours, there are certain requirements. It's very rigorous. And if you're interested, you can look at the IMTA page. It will tell you what all of their accredited organizations like ours, teaching programs, what you will learn from it. So Alec, is that great? Thanks. I'm going to move to Hope. Thank you.
Okay, hopefully audio's better. Okay, so yeah, I have like a lot of questions, but I think I'll just ask a very straightforward one. One of the requirements is 3 years of practice, and I'm wondering what exactly that means. I think I have like 2 years and a few months of like really regular sitting, like 20-30 minutes, and then before that it's been like decades of going to retreats and trying to make that regular practice happen, but it's never been regular. So I guess the question is like, how strict are you about the 3 years?
Thanks, Hope. It's a great question. So the reason for the years of practice is this program is for people who already have experience with mindfulness, with meditation. It's not someone who's never sat an 8-hour retreat, you know. We have people apply in that way, and that is not what it's for. We are not going to be teaching you the basics of mindfulness meditation. I mean, we will in the sense of making you a teacher, but you should have your own robust practice. 3 years is somewhat arbitrary. It's there because we are trying to say this is for experienced, committed students. So if you've been practicing 2 years and something in a very regular way, and even before that in a less regular way, but you've studied and practiced in it and you meet all the other requirements, you are a qualified applicant.
Great, thanks. I think I'll let other people go and then I'll come in with other questions. Thanks.
Thanks, Hope. Nicola, glad to see you. We can't hear you.
Are you getting your mic on?
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you? Yes, okay. So I had the opportunity to take the mindfulness meditation training for children with IDP. And I do have to say that it was a cohesive group and that I end up learning a lot. And maybe to answer the question that one of the people in the group had before, I am trained as an artist and my practice is very transdisciplinary. And so I have been using what I learned at IDP with the artwork that I do. To give you an example, I was teaching a class with elders just when the pandemic hit. And the class went online, but none of the others had access to video. They didn't know how to do videos on their phone, or they didn't know anything about technology. So I ended up teaching the class through the landline. We would meet through a conference service. And I did implement some of what I learned at IDP. And I've been implementing what I learned there within the artwork that I do. That's what I can say. So it's happening very organically for me as an artist, and it has had a very powerful experience in what I bring to people. I don't know if that makes sense to, I'm sorry, I don't remember your name, to the person who answered that question. So mindfulness is having a great impact in how I bring art forward to the world and how I see my role as a creative, being of service to others, and bringing some or kindling some peace in a world that's so full of sorrow. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your experience. Nicholas was referring to our training program that is to teach mindfulness to children. They were in it 2 years ago, right? In the program. So
Yes,
thank you so much for sharing that. I think, Madeline, you have your hand up, and also then Gori.
Yes, sorry, I have another question. Some of these questions sparked some other questions. So I know when I looked at the schedule, a lot of the sessions are on the weekends, but you mentioned some other check-ins and things like that. How, and I'm assuming most of the people who take this course are working or students, or does it work with, working individuals? Is it designed for working individuals so that, we don't have to take a ton of time off to attend all of these different sessions and things like that? And I know most of them are on the weekends, but, maybe some of the unscheduled ones, are those mostly, within accordance of when people would be working normal hours? Does that make sense?
Yeah, good question. Yes, the ones which are outside the weekend of, Friday evening, Saturday, Sunday, some of those actually are also on the weekends. And then others, like meeting with your mentor, for example, you together decide on a time. So maybe it's going to be a weekday evening, or maybe it's a weekend, right? And then with your study group, it's also a small group that is then going to look for the time that works for everyone. So I would say in the past, there hasn't really been an issue with it. It's probably much less likely that nothing that is official is like happening on a weekday in the middle of the day. I don't think, yeah.
And then one more question, and this might be outside of the scope, but I haven't been able to find really any other certifications in mindfulness besides, like yoga or mindfulness-based stress reduction. Is this and those other two kind of the only accrediting organization type things, or are there other ones that I'm not aware of?
Not that I know of, Madeline. I think you've
Okay.
just named them. The IMTA, MBSR has its own unique training and certification.
Mhm.
And then I think it's called the Yoga Union. Am I correct with that? The kind of the accrediting body for yoga, right?
Mhm.
I believe right now that's it, although there are lots and lots of, I think, very wonderful programs that aren't accredited. But
Right.
I believe so far that's it.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Gauri?
Hi, I don't think I've met any of you. So I had a question related to the time commitment as well. It's a pretty full schedule, so I just wanted to check whether, I mean, I'm sure you want to attend each and every part of it, but is it very much about attending 100%? Because just like Madden mentioned, like when you're working and stuff, I just want to understand how flexible the schedule could be. That's one. And then my second question is just in terms of, and I know you said that it's mindfulness based and not in a particular lineage, but in terms of a particular meditation technique that you are taught to teach, is there a particular technique, or is it? I just want to understand more about that. Thanks.
Okay, maybe I'll speak to the second part of your question first. A specific meditation technique. Yes, so there is the teaching of the mindfulness teachings, mindfulness of breath, mindfulness of body, mindfulness of emotions, right? So that is a technique, and the practice of loving kindness, metta. I would say these are like the two major techniques. Included in mindfulness would be learning to do a body scan. And then your first question about how flexible, I'm going to let Kim take that question.
Thanks, Mona. Hi, Gauri. So regarding flexibility, in order to get a certificate, if you're doing this to get a certificate, you must complete 200 hours. There'll be a timesheet. You'll need to fill it out. You have to complete those qualifications. So if your intention is to get a certificate and or to get certified with IMTA, you would have to commit to those 200 hours. Now, that being said, there is a way to make up hours. Okay? If you had to have a planned absence, there are ways that you can make up those hours, but not all of them. I think the max you can make up is, I want to say 25. I'm not sure. I'd have to look. We suggest if you believe you're going to miss more than one full training weekend, there are 6 training weekends. If you're going to miss more than one, we suggest that perhaps you wait and apply next year, because it's really, if you're going to miss 2 weekends, that's, a third of the program. But I think most students will miss at least a couple sessions. It's not unheard of to miss a few days, and everyone's able to make it up, make up the hours. You can make it up through listening to the recording and writing about it. You can make it up. We have a whole audio archive of classes going back a decade. You can listen to those. And you're also welcome to attend any of the teachers that are teaching the training program. You can attend their classes and use those credits, to make up hours as well. Corey, do you have any follow-up questions? Thanks. Rashida, hi.
Hi. Oh, if you were going to say something, I can wait. No? Oh, okay. I thought you were about to say something else. Hi, my name is Rashida. I have a few questions. I feel like you might have already answered one of them, but as far as attendance, if are all of the Zoom meetings, they are recorded? They're recorded. Okay.
Yes, everything will be recorded. Mhm.
And the times are Eastern Standard Time, right?
Yes.
Cool. Good to know. I had a question about in the completion to receive the certification, how the silent retreat portion works. I have not done a silent retreat before because of COVID. I was about to do one, and then I wasn't able to. And so in the event that there isn't anything residentially going on or one that I can actually attend, I don't know if this should be like a more directed question like in an email, but I just wanted to know like
great.
what does an at-home silent retreat look like? And I was just curious about it.
Yep, thank you for that. So one of the requirements is that you do a 7-day silent retreat. If you are otherwise qualified, meaning all the other requirements, you already meet them, we will accept you into the program generally, contingent upon you doing a week-long retreat before the program ends. Now, as Rashida mentioned, it's a pandemic, okay? So our students in 2020 faced this. There were, I think, 5 of them, and I'm gonna let Mona speak to an example because one of the students did an amazing independent retreat. So we had to allow people to do home retreats. We do have a little guideline for it, and if you're part of the program, we'll send it to you. But what it requires is, one, that you sign up for an online retreat, and there are lots of them, home retreats. I know offhand Insight Meditation Society it has a whole bunch, some recorded, some live, okay? Then that you follow that retreat, and that since you are at home, it's not going to be 24 hours that you're listening to recordings, that you practice at least 10 hours a day. Okay, so that is the requirement, that you will practice 10 hours a day. And you will not be working, you would not be going to school, you'd not be on the internet, that you'd be taking a commitment to actually create a retreat experience in your home. And I'm going to pass it over to Mona for her input.
Yeah, great question. One of our participants in this most recent training, he found a place. So there was a retreat that he did do that was a live retreat, online, of course. And then he found a place, a meditation center. The name is escaping me right now, in California. And I can find that name and provide it, where they were renting out their cabins for individuals to come who wanted to meditate or do self-guided retreat, or through the internet with a group. And that's what he did. So he rented this cabin, and there were options that had its own kitchen, and there were options at that particular facility. They could provide you food, or you could cook your own food, and they would give you the ingredients. That's the practical part. But then he had his computer, and he would just go to the meditation hall, sit, practice. He would, come back to his cabin, do different practice, etc. So that was a way of, being out of his home and doing the retreat. And then many of our participants well, not many, but those who hadn't done a silent retreat before, who did retreat at home, did it just as Kim described, yeah. And then keeping a log of your experience,
Thank you. Another question I had was, you said that each person you said assigned a mentor, or is it kind of like, do we get to choose our mentors? Or I was just curious about that.
Are usually assigned. They are
Cool.
assigned. You'll be assigned a mentor. And through the part of the requirements of the program is that you meet with the mentor within the first month, and you actually teach mindfulness using a basic mindfulness instruction that you'll be taught, and that you also do that again about a month before the program ends. Both of those sessions are just to demonstrate competency in mindfulness meditation. They are also an opportunity to ask questions of your mentor, to seek guidance if you need it. And your mentor is available to you outside of those 2 meetings as well.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And my last question is around course materials. And I'm assuming, is that something that's released later on? But as far as like different books or what that looks like.
Yeah, there's a reading list for the program, and there's also a lot of resources on the list that are not books. There's articles, there's some videos and some teachings. So it's not. I don't think it's too robust because yeah, and generally speaking, you'll receive homework that is due at each weekend. Right. So after the second weekend, you'll receive a homework guide. It's going to have all the readings and the study questions, and then those are due before the third weekend.
I'm so sorry. I have one last question. I signed up for the MBSR 8-week intro course, and one of the things in their guidelines said that they kind of require or really ask that you have your video camera on majority of the time. And I wanted to know if there was flexibility in that. And is that counted against or for attendance in these training weekends?
We require everybody to be on video. Because you're here for each other as well as for yourself. That's part of the program. Now, of course, if there, someone called up Mona and said, look, I'm just beat, I can't do it today. Of course, but you're going into the program assuming you're going to be part of this group. You're going to show up for you and show up for everyone else. And I'll let Mona speak to that too.
Yeah, I think it does make a difference to, of course, barring some emergency situation, the camera broke or whatever, you just need to lay down, you're not feeling well, but, it does make a difference. It's already, it's good. We're growing our neural pathways to accept our Zoom reality, and there's been a lot of benefits to that, but then to actually be able to see each other, it makes a huge difference. So yeah, and it is a two-way thing. I want to say, well, two-way, multi-way. So it's not just, again, it's not just the webinar where it's like, okay, I just have it on and, you're just receiving, but it's really the dynamic of the connection and communication that happens. So yeah.
Thank you. I'm asking because I'm breastfeeding and figuring out what that schedule looks like for my own personal journey. And so I'm wondering, like, dipping in and out of a video, if that's like counted against me or not, I guess, in the event of being in the training weekend. So that's what I was asking. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for asking. And nothing's going to be counted against anybody. We'll work with everybody as their needs are. I will just one thing about a difference between our program and others. I know there are programs out there, and they may be wonderful programs, that are mainly video, that you watch certain videos and then you might meet and talk later or things like that. And we don't do that. We want us all to, part of that reason is we want it to be a collective experience, and we want to exchange information and feedback from one another. So that is a little distinction. But yes, whatever's going on, we're going to work with you. And certainly you wouldn't be penalized for feeding your baby.
Thank you. No, I wasn't insinuating that.
No, it's
Thank
okay.
you.
Yeah. Do you have any more questions, Rashida? Okay, I'm going to go back to Hope, and then we have Madeline and Nichols. Do you still have a question?
Oh, no, I'll lower my hand.
Great.
I'm sorry about that.
And Gauri, did you have another question? Okay,
Oh,
Gauri,
great.
I bring you up too.
So a couple of maybe related questions. And I can't really verbalize this exactly, but it's sort of like, I know I am not ready to be a teacher under a lineage. At least for me, that feels like it has a lot more weight, but I do feel like through my personal meditation and growth, I'm sort of ready to share meditation with people. So what's the scope of practice for, having gone through this certification, right? And how does that contrast with, a formal meditation lineage approved meditation teacher, right? Does that make sense?
Can I ask, are you, just for my clarification, are you saying like, what is the distinction between graduating, let's say graduating from this program, as opposed to practicing with a lineage and then going through their process, whatever their process is, to empower you to become a teacher? And what is the difference in scope of practice out in the world? Is that what you're saying?
Right, the latter part of that, especially, like, I feel like, it at one level, it feels a little bit daunting to put yourself out there as a teacher of this 2,500-year-old tradition, right? And at the other hand, like, people are getting this off their apps, right? And maybe as a human being who practices, you might individually be able to offer them a lot more. So yeah, I think you get what I'm getting at.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's such a great question, Hope. Thank you for that. Really, I think it just, reflects how serious you're thinking about this, and which it is. I don't really know the answer to in terms of like scope, because as Kim sort of said earlier, I think it's sort of like the Wild West. Like, people, right? You're saying you did the app, now you're calling yourself a mindfulness teacher. Like, there is that in the general world. I do think, though, that one of the things that has helped me is just remembering, like, know what you know. I'm not a guru. I'm not a master. I am not an expert. I am not the final authority, and I'm not trying to present like I am. But do I have tools and practices, and have I studied and had my own practice and feedback from mentors and spiritual friends that have given me some sense, like, and I can share this, and I feel I have something I can share with others without trying to be way up high and say I am this and that. Yeah, I think I do, and I've had my own inner struggle with it. But I would say that's, it's like coming with humility and not pretending to basically be something that you're not, continuing to learn, really being committed to continuing to learn and to grow. And Kim, I don't know if you would anything to say.
That makes sense. I mean, for those of you who may not be from a particular, yoga or Buddhism background, both in general, the yogic traditions and the Buddhist traditions, they each tradition, and when I say that, I mean Zen and Tibetan and Thai forest and etc. Each of these particular traditions have their own way of training people to become teachers. It's very specific to that lineage. If you're a Zen Buddhist teacher, you have trained in a very specific way. You're not offering Tibetan Buddhism. You're offering Zen Buddhism. And it's usually takes quite a long time. You're a student for a long time and you receive certain empowerments, etc. None of the Buddhist teachers, I think we have one or two people who became Zen monks. I can think of two that were in our programs over the years. None of us represent a particular Buddhist lineage. Some of us don't have a Buddhist lineage. I mean, for example, Emily Hertzlin, one of the teachers, she's studied with Buddhists for years, but she's Jewish, and she is studying a Jewish meditation training program. Okay, so she'll be able to represent herself in that way. But none of us are trained in a particular lineage, and we're very careful about that. And I guess the final word on that is we're not teaching Buddhism. That's the difference. If you want to study Buddhism, I suggest all of you go to a lineage and study it and learn from those teachers. I do, Mona does, almost all our teachers do. We have training in that. But we are not offering people to become Buddhist students. None of our graduates, I think, could honestly say that. They could say they're influenced by the Buddhist tradition, they're teaching Buddhist techniques, but they're mindfulness teachers. So that would be kind of also the distinction, and making it, that clear to your students. I think we have Gori and Madeline left, right? And it is 1. I want to appreciate the time. If you have to leave, thank you for being here. You can always email us, and you can watch this recording because we're going to take a couple more questions.
Should I go? Yeah, okay. No, just a quick question. Can you just tell us a little bit more about the recommendations? I do come from, I've done the Goenka tradition where you're not necessarily in touch with a teacher one-on-one on a regular basis. So I just wanted to understand more about what you want in those recommendations and from whom.
Sure. The application requires 2 letters of recommendation. The first one, I believe it says from a teacher or member of a mindfulness or meditation community. And the other is from, I believe, a friend or a colleague. Okay. That first one, it suggests if you do have teachers or mentors in yoga, in mindfulness, in Buddhist tradition, in a meditation group, ask them for a recommendation for you. If you don't, and you simply have friends that you meditate with, or you're part of a group that know that you're in that tradition, ask them. Finally, we had someone apply recently. This person has been training for years. This person's done many, many retreats, but they don't have a particular relationship with one group, right? So they're offering a letter from people who know them well, a personal recommendation, which, in which the letter writer will tell us why they believe you're a good candidate to teach mindfulness, what personal qualities you have that would make you good at it. Madeline?
Hi, sorry, I put in the chat that I didn't mean to keep my hand raised, so I'm good on my questions, but thank you very much. This was really helpful.
Okay, any other questions? Like I said, you could always email us. Okay, thank you for being here. Mona, I'll let you close it.
Thank you all for being here and for your interest and questions, and wish you a beautiful day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mona, that was so nice.
That was lovely. And I gotta say, are we recording? So we're recording still. Okay.
Oh, let me stop it.
Oh, I guess we both could stop.